Let's welcome Pastor Evan Mawarire. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and he has become very famous overnight, and I think all over the world, outside of Zimbabwe even, and he is the initiator, the organizer of the This Flag revolution. Do you call it a revolution or do you call it a protest? Whatever. The long and short of it is last week, thousands of brave citizens of Zimbabwe, 2 weeks ago actually, they did heed the call to stay away, to make their voices heard under very difficult circumstances, Nohal. Pastor Evan, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on your show already.
Thank you. I saw a tweet that you posted where you said, "I'm reliably informed that groups of men are looking for me at home and office. We don't know who they are. We'll update as we get more info." Are you safe to start with?
To start off with, I'm very safe, at this point, and I give that credit of safety to the citizens of Zimbabwe who have kept a watchful eye over me. And it's my hope that we, as Zimbabweans, we continue to watch out for each other.
Let's just talk about, we'll talk about the events that led to your arrest in just a moment. But just when you were arrested and what happened in court, you were represented by more than a dozen lawyers. What were your expectations? Because many people were nervous that there would not be justice in a court in Zimbabwe.
I think first and foremost, we went in with a charge that I had been arrested on, which was inciting public violence. And what I expected was a very procedural, kind of an event where, the lawyer would then, present the case. I'll be out on bail. But it was shocking when the state then, literally in the middle of proceedings of court, came in with a fresh charge that we did not expect at all. So I think that was a shock to my system, and I think a shock to the system of the citizens as well.
So let's talk about this flag revolution. Zimbabwe has been in the news for as long as I can remember, whether it is the drought or the land ownership issue, the crackdown on opposition, the election that was stolen a couple of years ago. Why now? What is it that got Pastor Evan Mawarire active and bold to call on your fellow citizens to take charge this time?
I think we have gotten to a place as Zimbabweans where each of us have now come to a place where the personal struggle has become too difficult to hide. Each of us cannot keep quiet anymore. And so at the point at which I spoke out and I said, listen, enough is enough. I can't pay fees for my children. I can't access my own money. I can't get health access. I can't get a job. I have youngsters who graduated in 2012, and up to today, they are vendors on the street. Enough. This is just enough. And at that point, I think we have reached now in everyone, no matter what your religion is, your background, or even your political affiliation, we have just point where we are just saying, listen, we are done with this, and if we do not unite as citizens, we are not going to see the Zimbabwe that we dream of.
Stay on the line for us, Pastor Evan. I do want to continue talking to you about this and the significance of it as well. Do you hope that this is a start of some sort of revolution? We know that the first day away that you called for was largely successful, not least because it also coincided with a 3-day strike by teachers and nurses protesting about unpaid June salaries. And also, we read in newspapers in the last couple of days that the army has not been paid. They're supposed to be paid mid-month, and mid-month came and went without their salaries. What does that mean for the country? And also, how are you going to build on this momentum? Basically, what is the next step? Let's get the latest Eyewitness News headlines from Aurelie Kalinga. Good morning.
Thanks, Ridi. Good morning. As DIRCO continues with arrangements to return those stranded in Turkey to South Africa, a state of emergency has been imposed in Istanbul. Armoured vehicles and additional 1,800 special police forces are being deployed to key locations. Unidentified helicopters are reportedly being spotted over the city 2 days after rebel aircraft were used in a military coup attempt to attack police and government buildings. The trial of DA Member of Parliament and former prosecutor Glynis Breitenbach is scheduled to start in the Pretoria North Magistrate Court today. Breitenbach and her attorney Gerard Wagner are accused of defeating the ends of justice and contravening the NPA Act. And Cricket South Africa is heading to Soweto this morning for Mandela Day to assist at a local primary school. They've paired up with the Highveld Lions and various corporate sponsors to help make a difference in the lives of pupils at a primary school there. Those are the headlines. More Eyewitness News at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traffic at the moment is quite slow on the Golden Highway at the R550 because of an accident seen. Also, Republic and Surrey in Randburg, another accident there. A truck overturned on the N1 North near the Bayers Nordia turnoff. We've still got the shell of a burnt-out bus in Pretoria in the CBD at Stanza, Bopape and Hamilton Street, so there are delays there. In Cape Town, the N1 outgoing off the Giel Basson, the truck is overturned across the highway. Expect heavy delays there. Also on the N2 inbound between Welcome Estate and Mowbray, another accident there causing delays. Aki Anastasiou, EWN Traffic.
While you're getting ready to own the streets at the 702 Walk the Talk, we have a small milestone to celebrate. It's been 15 years of being the biggest walking event in Joburg, the biggest mass participation sports event on the continent. We've covered over 11 million kilometers. That's walking around the earth more than 880 times. And we're not about to lose steam now. Let's do this again. Sunday, 24 July. We look forward to seeing you. The 702 Walk the Talk 2016. 15 years and counting. Hosted by the City of Joburg, a world-class African city.
When my TK left home, I thought he wouldn't need me anymore. But when he asked me for a loan, I knew there was something Mama could still do. So I got him to join the great tax-free savings sign-up with Old Mutual. And he opened a tax-free plan from only 350 Rand a month. He pays no tax on the growth. And if he saves the maximum of 30,000 Rand a year, he gets up to half the admin fees back.
Join the great tax-free savings sign-up. Visit taxfreesignup.co.za or call 0860 60 60 60. It's that easy to do great things. Old Mutual, a licensed financial services provider.
Hello world. Hello information. Hello uploads and downloads. Hello streaming videos and low latency. Hello blogs and vlogs. Hello crystal clear video calls. Hello increased productivity. Hello online learning. Hello cloud. Hello long lost friends and missed connections. Hello limitless possibilities and instant gratification. Say hello to premium high-speed fiber from Vox Telecom. Pleasure guaranteed. Visit voxtelecom.co.za for more information.
The road to business success is filled with highs, such as high performance, quality, and productivity, and some lows, like low cost of ownership and maintenance. With the lowest fuel consumption and service and repair costs in its class, the Nissan NP200 range delivers high returns. Visit nissan.co.za and get your Nissan NP200 from a low 159,900 with a 10% deal assist on fleet purchases, which might leave you, well, on a high. Offer valid for VAT-registered businesses. T's and C's apply. Nissan, innovation that excites.
702 and Cape Talk. Reedy Clabby.
Open line.
26 minutes to 10 o'clock. Perhaps Pastor Evan Mawarire, who's joining us on the line, the organizer of This Flag protests in Zimbabwe. I'll let Susanna, who's calling us from Abuja, Nigeria, ask this question that I also had in mind. Susanna, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So, Pastor, firstly, I'd just like to thank you for just restoring hope to all Zimbabweans. I mean, I'm sitting here in Abuja, and I've been following everything that you've doing, and I've dialed in because I guess for me as a Zimbabwean, my first question to you is, what happens next? So I understand, definitely the peaceful protest, but I guess, our question is, what happens after the stairways? What happens when people no longer stay away? So, what does that next plan or that next phase look like?
Pastor Evan?
I think first and foremost, it's important for us to realize where we are coming from in Zimbabwe. We have had a long journey where we have not been able to express ourselves in the ways that we want or the ways that we feel we will be heard. And so this is a process of people coming out of their shells. And a whole lot of Zimbabweans have been scared and afraid, intimidated because of the way government has often responded to protesters. Case in point is, what I went through and what the protesters in Zimbabwe are going through right now. And so all this that we are doing is we're trying to find ways in which more and more people can be included in standing up and speaking out, where it becomes normal to stand up and speak out to a government, whether this one or one to come. So this is all a journey. Everything we've been doing, the online protest that we started, when we then called the Reserve Bank governor for a debate, which was a success, and then of course eventually, us being able to call a stay away. And then of course the court case when the thousands of people came out. So this is a journey where more and more we are gaining a critical mass. Going forward, we again are looking to Zimbabweans to, of course, sit down together strategy-wise. What can we do to go forward? What can we do to press this government to listen to its citizens? But more importantly, what can we do to embolden citizens? And I think this is where the strategy is. It's to get a critical mass of citizens who continue to be bold enough to stand up, to their government.
And at what cost, Pastor Evan? I think a lot of people worry about the crackdown of the police, the security agencies. And I ask that question knowing that here in South Africa, people fought regardless of that violent and brutal crackdown. And I guess the crux of my question is, are Zimbabweans ready for the counter action from the authorities? Such action would obviously be violent.
One of the things that we are thinking about as Zimbabweans is the cost that our parents paid to secure independence for Zimbabwe from colonialism. Those people paid a very high cost. They paid a cost with their lives. And they all got to a point where they had to think about what it was going to cost them to get the very thing that they wanted for us. And I think this is where we are as Zimbabweans. My generation is at a place where it is saying, what is it going to take for me to secure a Zimbabwe for my children that I have not experienced in the last 36 years? So it's a cost that we all have to count. It's a personal cost. That's why when we called the stay away, we spoke to the citizens and said, this is going to cost you a day's wage. It's going to cost you 2 days' wage. And we know that this hurts. But we want to ask you to lay that on the line because it's going towards building a better Zimbabwe in the future.
And then just talking about the situation on the ground, I mean, is this the worst that it's ever been in your memory? I mean, in terms of there are times when we'd heard that the shelves are empty, the currency not performing. I remember a time when it was a huge joke, all those zeros after the currency. But you mentioned earlier about people not being paid, not being able to take your children to school. We thought that things were improving, Pastor Evan?
Well, I think sometimes that's the illusion of Zimbabwe, is that sometimes things look like they are getting better. When in actual fact, we have got a real crisis on our hands. It's difficult to gauge whether this is the worst because we have had so many lows in Zimbabwe and as Zimbabweans that sometimes we don't even know which one was worse. What we do know right now, however, is that we don't want to go back to, say, 2008. What we do know right now, however, is that we cannot continue to let things spiral. I think we've woken up to the fact that it is the citizens of Zimbabwe, not an opposition political party, not the African Union or the SADC or the EU or the US that are responsible for the Zimbabwe that we want. It's us, the citizens. And if we don't wake up to that and don't unite on that, we will never get it. But I'm glad to say that we are now beginning to reach out for it, and we are definitely going to get that.
Let's go to Munya in Edenvale. Munya, you also have a question or a comment for Pastor Evan?
Yes, really, thank you very much for bringing Pastor Evan. Pastor Evan, we just want to let you know that we are supporting you. I'm a Zimbabwean in South Africa myself. The work that you have done has awoken a lot of, things that Zimbabweans have been thinking about. And when you speak about SADC and other authorities around here in Africa, while these Zimbabweans have woken up and they're doing this, we still need their support. We do not want the kind of talk that we're having from Gwede Mantashe, where he speaks of a third force and all these things. It actually disempowers the people of Zimbabwe. And we need for people to understand that we are not in the same situation as in South Africa, where the judiciary is independent, the police systems and the states apparatus are independent. In Zimbabwe, they're being used, to do much more harm. And our only help is if our neighbors can stand with us and say, you know what, we are behind you. So thank you so much for what you're doing. We are praying for you that, you continue on and that you be protected. We know, that there's been disappearances of other people, and we are saying that should not happen to you.
Okay, thank you. Before you respond to Munya, Pastor, let me also take Oscar because he raises another issue about regional support, which is a theme that Munya touched on. So let's just take these two calls back to back and I'll give you a chance to respond. Oscar in Midrand.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, I'm happy, but I am sad as well because this thing should have been starting a very long time ago. You see, the problem with the Zimbabwean government, it has been oppressing people for a very long time, and we've been trying to speak out to the OAU, to the AU and SADC, so that they can maybe support us. Even the South African government has been turning a blind eye to what is happening in Zimbabwe, because this thing is not starting now. It started maybe 36 years ago, because some of us, we never went to school. The pastor and some of those people, they only start to see it now that they can't pay school fees for their kids. But it has been happening for a long time, especially people who come from rural areas who can't afford all these things. But I am happy because now it seems that it's gaining a momentum. Everyone is seeing, because we've been speaking to this, trying to speak to government, trying to go to Zimbabwe consulate, trying to tell them that what is happening in Zimbabwe is not right, because even young kids at 6 years old, they are crossing border.
Okay, I think I've lost Pastor Evan. Have we lost him? Okay, no? We've lost him. Okay. But we do get your message, Oscar. Let's see if we can get Pastor Evan Mawarire back on, because I think it's very important. What do Zimbabweans expect? Somebody tweeted that there's been silence from South Africans. And I thought, who's been silent? We've been talking about this. We've been raising this many years. What's been happening in Zimbabwe has been very close to the hearts and minds of South Africans, even those who support President Robert Mugabe and those who didn't support President Thabo Mbeki for his quiet diplomacy. He came under severe and harsh criticism. So who is silent? But Pastor Evan, just taking the concerns of the two callers about a lack of support from regional leaders, the AU and SADC, what are your expectations of them? How can they add momentum to this, if at all? Because they perhaps will argue that what happens in Zimbabwe is the business of Zimbabweans. You must speak at election time. Zimbabwe is an autonomous country. I'm just anticipating the kind of counter arguments that would be bandied about. What are your expectations as citizens?
I think our expectations of the region is that they would support a Zimbabwe that is just a Zimbabwe that loves its citizens and looks after its citizens' well-being the way it should. And this has not happened. And I think that last two callers, Munya and Oscar, are absolutely right. The key thing is for the region to understand that as a people, as Zimbabweans, we want their support, and not just for them to support our government only, but support us, the people, as well, because it is us who then build a Zimbabwe that can contribute to a better region. And so where they see injustices that are obvious, that are blatant, they must come in. When we go to elections and we, the citizens, call on them to come and help us to watch and to look, they must come in and do that. Because I think the loss of faith in the region by Zimbabweans, of course, goes back into precedents, into the last couple of years, where we have seen, our regional friends not come in or stand by or endorse injustices that are obviously blatant. And I think as citizens of Zimbabwe, we are now saying to them that we are standing up for ourselves. Stand with us. Help us where there is an obvious injustice. Oscar mentioned something which is so true. A lot of these things have been happening for so many years. Many people have died. Many people have lost their lives. And so now we have realized that we can't keep losing lives. We can't keep going on this way, and we must stand up and stop it ourselves.
Do stay with us, because I want to ask you about the movement and the fact that it is it seems to be a civil society uprising, which gives me much encouragement. But do you need at some point a political voice or a political authority and ideology in order to give it more strength? I know there was a protest by women in Zimbabwe, and understand that it was led by the MDC. Are you working with any other political parties, or is the unique attribute of your movement that it is led by citizens? Is that what gives it strength? And if politicians start getting involved, would it strengthen or weaken your movement? I want to hear from you. Tafadzwa, I see your call. Farai and Bruce, I see your calls coming to you in just a moment.
If you've mastered the look of appearing as if you know exactly what someone is talking about, you'll know to nod your head, sigh, never let your eyes glaze over. And when they ask what you think of the current crisis in some strange place you've never heard of, look serious. Cough. Glance down at your EWN app. Glance up and hold forth. The EWN app is free and fast. Download the EWN app. In touch, in tune, and independent.
Insurance companies promise a lot of things. That they're faster, cheaper, and even cheaper than the cheaper guy. That they'll be here for you, there for you, everywhere for you from now till the cows come home. Or if one runs in front of your car. At Santam, we do insurance good and proper. Insurance with no ifs, buts, and maybes. Insurance that looks for reasons to pay you rather than reasons not to. And that's led to consumers and brokers voting us the most reliable personal insurer when it comes to paying claims and satisfying their insurance needs. No other insurer can claim that. For a quote, call 0860 444 444 or your broker. Santam, insurance good and proper. An authorized financial services provider.
We've heard it a million times before. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. But did you know that there's a fruit out there that has 10 times the nutrition of apples? 10 times the nutrition of apples. Yep, it's Zespri Sun Gold Kiwi fruit that gives you 10 healthy reasons to rethink your shopping list. So, why not upset the apple cart just a little and pop something new and exciting into your trolley?
Zespri, it's the best.
See ZespriAfrica.com for more.
Need to get a big job done? Get the Hyundai H100 Bakkie with a 7-year, 200,000-kilometer warranty. Visit Hyundai.co.za and see how Hyundai can help your business reach its potential. Hyundai, driving business forward.
702 and Cape Talk. Reedy Clabby.
Open line.
Pastor Evan Mawarire is my guest, this flag protest organizer or initiator, and we're taking your calls as well. Is this the beginning of something hugely significant for Zimbabwe, or it was just citizens making their voices heard? What happens next? And did the government in any way find an opportunity for self-introspection, really, and to listen to its citizens? What is likely to change as a result of this popular uprising? Lots of people SMSing and tweeting us saying that they do support this flag protest, and also some conspiracy theories, I think, starting to emerge. And I'll ask the pastor to respond to those in just a moment. But first, Tafadzwa in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Your comment, please.
I'm so blessed. Let me say, we as Zimbabweans, we have never achieved independence. The only person that has achieved the independence is Mugabe and his junta. And we thank God for the vision that he gave Pastor Evan. I'm 100% citizen, and I support the citizen movement.
Thank you, Tafadzwa.
And I say to you, men of God, I'm with you in prayers. We have a group. We pray for you each and every day for God to protect you and to protect your family.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Farai in Rosebank. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Farai. Also, it's a citizen of Zimbabwe. My comment is, Pastor, I have to tell you, I have a flag with me, but at the moment I have my flag in my bag. I haven't brought it out yet. And the reason why is a part of me feels that lack of the next steps. You have been asked so many times in terms of what is the next steps. And perhaps it's unfair in terms of asking you that question. It's a question that we need to ask all Zimbabweans. And when I mean all Zimbabweans, this includes the government themselves.
And you, Farai. And you, because now you're saying you're not removing your flag, you're not using your flag because you don't know what the next step is. The next step also depends on active citizenship. Pastor Evan has started something, and this something will flop if people like you are complacent.
No, I think it's not complacency per se, and perhaps my comment now is part of being active in giving suggestions to say that there are some issues that we have in Zimbabwe. For instance, from an economic perspective, those issues are not simple issues, and even if you put professors together, people are writing theses on what's happening in Zimbabwe. So I have that appreciation to say our problems are not that simple. I'm yearning for the movement, even through this flag, that we get to that next stage, that we organize ourselves as Zimbabweans, put together structures in which people can come together, think about the problems that we have, and try to resolve them.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Pastor, that what the next phase depends very much on what citizens do with what you started.
100%. And I think this is the one thing that must be realized by Zimbabweans, is that we have often looked to a savior figure to bring us out of our troubles, out of our problems. And I think while that may be a strategy that has worked in the past, and even you were talking about a political, voice, are we lending ourselves to a political voice? Are we going to form a political movement? Again, those are things that we have put faith in the past in Zimbabwe, and they have let us down. And this is the uniqueness of this flag, this movement that has risen up, is that it is apolitical. It hasn't lent itself to any political voice or any political figure. It's citizens who have finally said, I am now responsible for Zimbabwe. I am now responsible for the future of my country. And it starts with me stopping being afraid, scaling the wall of fear, and speaking out. If we speak out in mass, if we stand together in mass, you start to see change. So in terms of the next step forward, this is now something that Zimbabweans are now putting together. And I've said this to people, begin to take from this movement a position that you can start to move on with. And now we've got a few strategies in place in terms of, hey, let's push on, with this kind of effort towards the government, or this kind of effort towards the citizens. But our citizens must now, whether you are opposition, whether you are even government itself, I believe government itself can respond to this. Their problem is that they don't know how to respond when people speak genuinely to them. And so their lack of response or their lack of inspiration continues to fuel us to stand up to say enough is enough. And if we must get to a point where we say we don't want this government anymore, it is our right to do so and to say that.
What I do want to go back to is that theme of political support. I mean, I remember here in South Africa, well, not that I remember, but from what I've been reading about the history of the struggle and the liberation movement here in South Africa, is that, there are political parties who came in after the fact to take credit for what citizens had started. But there were other initiatives that were started by political parties themselves. And ultimately, everything had to converge. You almost needed a political home for these popular uprisings. In Zimbabwe, do you think that this can carry on, this momentum can carry on without a political home, as it were? And if it were to find a political home, would that be with the MDC? Because it seems to have been castrated, as it were, in the last couple of years.
I think the one thing that is obvious is that Zimbabweans are beginning to realize that over the years, we have recycled the same ideas within the same people over and over again, and they haven't worked. What is apparent is that a new set of ideas now needs to come to the fore, and dare I say, with a new set of people as well. And again, it's because of legacy issues where we have gone and lended our support, and not gotten maybe the result that we wanted. But I must pay homage in my comment here to the opposition parties in Zimbabwe because of what they have been able to hold against our government for years and years gone by. Even if they have failed, these people have put their lives on the line. These people have put their careers on the line so that they can stand against the very things that this movement is talking about: corruption, injustice, and poverty. And so our success, a lot of our success in this movement comes from the fact that we are standing on the foundation of human rights activists, of opposition political parties in the past that have stood in the same gap. But now it is the citizens that has joined hands across political divides, across religious divides, across racial divides, across tribal divides, to say we are first and foremost Zimbabwean before we are card-carrying members of any political movement.
Now, what about you? You're already being labeled. I read somewhere that you are being labeled as an agent of the West. Yet, on the other hand, I think I hinted at conspiracy theories starting to emerge. On Twitter, there are people who are saying, please ask the pastor to explain, is he a stooge of ZANU-PF? There have been suggestions that you are being used by ZANU-PF. And I'm sure you are prepared for all of this, Pastor Evan.
Yes, absolutely. And I think these are things, that are really so unfortunate that as Zimbabweans, we, first of all, generate things like that. And secondly, that sometimes people believe it. But I don't blame my fellow citizens for sometimes believing or wanting at least a reassurance that it's not true. And it's because of what we have gone through, where information is twisted, where things are muddied up. Let me be very clear on your show already that I am not a stooge of either ZANU-PF or MDC on the other side, or the West. I am a simple citizen, a basic man who just got up one day and said, we are done. I'm done. I've had enough. In fact, my first post, I said, I may have crossed the line here, but I have had enough. I'm not a politician or an activist. I'm just a citizen. And so I want to assure my fellow citizens that we stand together in this, that don't be distracted. We have found our voice. And all these things are trying to now distract us from being able to make the progress that we need towards building the Zimbabwe that we want.
Bruce in Midrand, good morning to you. Very quickly, please.
Good morning, Reddy.
Yes, very quickly, Bruce. Welcome.
Okay, I would like to encourage my brother, Pastor Evans. Keep it up, my brother, because you are encouraging us to become bravers or to stand against this regime, Mugabe regime. It's been a long time while we suffer. So what we want is a regime change. Not all these things that they say they want to fix some other things so that the country will become better. We don't want all those things. What we want, they must go. Enough is enough.
Okay, and Pastor Evan, just on that, what would you like, what message would you like to send to Zimbabweans who are scattered at different parts of the globe, in the diaspora? What would you say to them? And also, in light of the fact that the next general election is in 2018, and I remember with the last election, there were a lot of Zimbabweans who were here in South Africa, and they had a litany of complaints, but they were not going home to vote.
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm here in Johannesburg and it is Nelson Mandela Day today. And let me say happy Nelson Mandela Day to all South Africans and indeed, of course, to the whole world that identifies with the principles that this man held. I think the way forward for us Zimbabweans, and particularly looking at South Africa today with Nelson Mandela Day, we are yearning for the statesmen and the stateswomen that can uphold justice, people that we can be proud of, just like South Africa is proud of Mandela, that can love our nation and stand for our nation the way it should be stood for. And going forward, we are inching more and more towards being able to push more and more Zimbabweans to stand up and say to the government, you can no longer do this to us. We are watching you, we can see you, and we are now demanding a change. And if it means demanding that we place a new government in place, it is our right. It is our right as citizens of Zimbabwe to be able to do that. Okay.
Thank you very much, Pastor Evan, for chatting to us, and stay safe. And, a very brave act that you demonstrated. We wish you success as well. And also, it's not just something that is happening in Zimbabwe. I think that we are part of the human family. And when human rights are being obliterated in one part of the world, it affects us all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you again. God bless you.
Pastor Evan Mawarire.